So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Sinead Tingley, who's director at Serendipity. So, firstly, Sinead, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Serendipity, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Okay, so I'm Sinead and I run Serendipity Counselling. We're based in York, and we have grown from it being me in a counselling room pre-COVID to being we have 4 offices across 3 sites and we've got 15 counsellors on the team.
Wow,
I know.
amazing! Well done. That's
Thank
that's
you.
That's significant growth, and well done for doing that. And also, and we'll perhaps come on to a bit later on. Managing across multiple sites is
Yes.
and it, yeah, I'm sure you're aware, but it can be a challenge. So, oh wow. So what's I mean, just give us an idea. What sort of people do you work with? What sort of counselling do you offer? What makes a great client for you?
We offer a wide breadth of counselling. We have currently have 7 counsellors who are fully qualified. So we as a team, we all bring our specialisms to the
Yes.
team, so we can work with almost all kind of issues and people's experiences. Um, so yeah, so there's the kind of the private work we do across 2 of the sites, and then we work with lots of local charities, men's mental health charities,
Right.
um, charities who work with people experiencing cancer and their families, except and the ripple effect that kind of like those
Yeah.
long-term illnesses have. So we do work where we will work with their clients in a counselling capacity. So that's often funded or low cost. Then we do have a low cost counselling offer. One of our offices is very like kind of in the middle, like we're in York. We've got 2 universities. There's a huge student population, so we
Yeah.
do offer a low cost counselling offer, for
Brilliant.
students and anybody else who needs some
Brilliant.
accessible counselling. And then, so yeah, we kind of work like across the community. We try and make it counselling and therapy as accessible as we can for our whole community.
Yes.
And if somebody comes to us and they say, "Well, I can't quite afford it," we always try to make a way, especially with the partners we work with, to get them in.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And I suppose one of the questions I would ask is, um, how would somebody know that counselling would benefit them at this point in time? Is there a yeah.
I guess if somebody's even thinking about talking to somebody, if someone's even thinking about actually what is therapy, what is counselling, do I need it?
Yeah.
I think that's a
Great.
conversation. That is absolutely a conversation, because sometimes it is, you may go to your doctor, or and they may suggest it, or you may talk to a friend. It may be that you're talking about something to your friends and they're kind of like, maybe you need to talk to somebody professional about
Yes.
this, right? So having somebody who's not a family member
Yeah.
or friend with no agenda. So we're not there to tell you whether to leave your partner or not. We're there to help you work out whether it's right for you.
Yes.
Whereas perhaps your friends and family have an agenda about that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I asked the question. I guess I had some counsel. I had counselling quite a long time ago, but that was a result of quite significant sort of trauma. I had a bit of a
Mm,
breakdown as a result of business, so it was obvious, if that makes sense. But I'm
yeah.
guessing there are plenty of people, and one thing we were talking before we started about COVID and lockdown, and I certainly believe most people, including mine, mental health dropped a few points
Yeah.
during it, and so whether I might consider myself mentally healthy at the start of COVID, I would imagine there were plenty of people, possibly including myself, that felt a lot less robust at the end.
No, absolutely. Because I mean, COVID still has an impact on in
Yes.
our lives currently. When we're working with children and young people, we always have to track back 6 years to see actually how old were they in their
Yes.
development, both like physically and socially and emotionally. to kind of look at where they are now. And we work with lots of business owners who have absolutely been and are going through the mill,
Yep.
with all kind of like changes around business, etc. So, yeah, so like COVID has a hangover, definitely, but we work relationally with our community. So whatever our community needs, whether um, whoever you are, whatever you do, that there is not a barrier to coming to see us.
Brilliant. Great. Wonderful. So maybe if we could start by taking a look backwards, and you could tell us a bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Okay, so years ago, so it's oh God, where are we? It's over 10 years ago. It's probably about 20 years ago now. I started working for children's social care. So my background was working with children and young people.
Yep.
And as part of my role in children's social care, I was seconded to the CAMS team, which is the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Unit here in York. So I worked with them for a year and I did some training with them. But it was the medical model of
Yep.
therapy, and I thought actually let me just go and try the social model, the counselling. So I did some kind of counselling courses with York St John, and I thought actually that's the way I want to go down. So when I was in my 40s, I retrained as a counsellor.
Brilliant.
Um, and my idea was that I would literally I would carry on working for social care and as a not as a side hustle, but as a like I would gradually build my counselling practice up from home, and that would into my 50s and 60s, and that's what I would do. And it just didn't work out. It kind of like I qualified in the August. By the following April, I'd left my full-time job because I think just because of where I was placed in my background and my experience, the referrals were
Oh
just
wow.
coming in,
Wonderful.
just really coming in, which is unusual because usually when somebody qualifies, it's a really hard slog to get yourself out there and get yourself known. I
Yes.
just feel it's where I was placed.
Yes.
It's not that people knew me, but like I was seen as a safe pair of hands, especially for children and young people.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So as you know, as the business has developed, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome over that time?
I think the biggest challenge was me getting over myself because I, I never like I years ago I used to say like as a counsellor we have supervisors, so we go and speak to somebody who's more qualified and more experienced than us I see someone twice a month. And I always used to say, oh, it's just by accident. This has happened by accident. It's just luck. And she would always say, no, you've made this happen. You've made this happen. So I think it was actually in 2019, somebody I'd worked with in children's social care was going to do a PhD in counselling psychology. And they came to me and said, can I come and work with you? Because I need placement hours. And I was like, oh, well, how's that going to work? And she was like, oh, well, like we could this is where the low cost counselling offer came from. Actually, we could offer just like and she was already a trained mental health nurse. So the uni came to see me. We ticked all the boxes. So she started on placement with us.
Right.
Um, and of course, we were advertising this low cost counselling, and people were flooding in to see her, especially with her background. And then COVID hit.
Yeah. Right.
Nobody wanted to go online because it was all, oh no, we'll come in next week. We'll come in next week.
Right.
Um, until people realized next week wasn't
Yeah.
coming. So that's when people started to embrace the
Yes.
online counselling work. So it took a few months actually. It took a few months, but we got back up and running online. And we were just busier than ever,
Brilliant.
absolutely busier than ever. And it grew from there. Somebody else I worked with who actually works at the University of York in the welfare team, they kind of said, actually, I'm going to retrain as a counsellor. Can I come and do my placement with you? And I was like, well, you've got such great credentials as well. Absolutely. So it kind of went from me being, I never counselled from home because my kids in the end were like, no, mum, we don't want to have to be quiet when we come home from school. We don't want to have to not play football and all this. So I've never counselled from home. Um, so it just grew from me being in one room in town to like, a few years ago, we had a suite like 3 offices above a golf course. It was just crazy. So it's just grown from there.
Absolutely wonderful. And what would you say your biggest learnings are about growing a successful business? And we mentioned multi-site. What are some of the things you've learned through that process?
I think to believe in myself. And one of the charities I work with is the Men's Mental Health Charity, and they have given me, but in the beginning, I wouldn't say boo to a goose on social media or LinkedIn. I just would like, oh no, I don't want anyone to think I'm an ambulance chaser or anything like that. And they would be like, well, Sinead, if you put something out and it goes wrong, you just take it down or you just say sorry.
Yep,
And so it was like this male confidence they gave me. They were just do it. If you want to take if you want, just do it. And those guys are like my biggest backers, actually.
brilliant,
If I ever wanted a bit of a confidence boost, they'd be there going, absolutely.
brilliant, brilliant. I think it is a very difficult thing to do, and it is also, yeah, it's getting outside our comfort zone, isn't it? Often, but I do find in business in general, and I would imagine with you especially, it's like we can get out of a comfort zone when our purpose is more important than our fears. When does that
I
make
and
sense?
I yeah, and I think I used to get angry actually. Because I know when I was in services, trying to find support for the families I worked with was really difficult because waiting lists were always closed. And even though we had we were top of the priority list because of the nature of the client group we were working with, it was always really difficult to find that therapeutic support for our clients. So when I trained as a counselor, it was really difficult to find a placement. So when initially two of my friends came to me and said, "Can you help us?" It was a yes. What do I need to do? What do I need to do to make this happen?
Yep.
Um, and so for me, and I think the reason the team has grown so big is because when we see over 70 clients a week between us all. Um, and it's always like, if we've got a waiting list, I will get more counsellors and get more rooms because we need to service the need of our community. This is, yeah,
Right.
yes, I get an income from this, but this is not about me being rich. This is about actually, this is the right thing to do.
Yep.
And
Brilliant.
when I see kind of other agents, no, I'm not dissing anyone because, we all have a role to play
Yep.
here, and some services are so completely overwhelmed. But for me, in my position, it's like, right, okay, we've got more referrals than we can handle. I'm going to get another room. I'm going to get more counsellors, and we're going to meet the need. And that
Brilliant.
and that's the ethos of it.
Brilliant, amazing. So yeah, and that as a definition of not definition, sorry, a mark of a great business is the amount of referrals
Yeah,
referrals are repeat business. It's a repeat
yeah.
client. Although in your case, I guess there's a preference not to have too many repeat clients in that respect. But
Well, the way I work and most of the team work is that we actually have an open door policy for our clients. So so we may do a piece of work with a client, and that's fine. We might not see them for a year or a few
yeah,
years, and then life happens. And they think, and I love it that they think of us and think, actually,
yes,
I'm going to drop back in. So
that's great.
people like redundancies, bereavements, divorces, etc. And it's like, okay, that I trust those people. I
Yeah,
trust that agency. I'm going back there.
think that must be so important. Is
Yeah,
when you build that trust that I can come back and go, yeah, I need some more help right now. That's
yeah.
that's absolutely wonderful. And what make what makes a great counsellor?
Oh, no, so this is good. So I'm a bit cheeky actually. So I have really strong links with York St John University, and I am a placement provider for their students, and I'm also one of the supervisors for the postgrad and the MA course. So I sneak in on the I am actually on the interview panels. So I go
Right.
in to see who's coming through. And like, oh, actually, I think they're really good. For me, I think a good counselor is definitely somebody who can sit with a client,
Yeah.
that they've really bottomed out the training. They know what they're doing. They have all of the core conditions for counseling, positive regard, congruence, all of those really important counseling skills, but that they can hold their client,
Yeah.
and that nothing a client whilst we can all be shocked. I think the people I pick for, like my training, in my advanced trainees and in the counsellors who come through as associates, that they are the ones who've got quite robust backgrounds. So
Right.
they've worked in key worker roles, or for client facing roles, pastoral roles,
Yes.
services. So that they're quite robust as practitioners. So it's almost like nothing that anybody can say will shock them or overwhelm them.
Yes.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I would imagine that's the case, isn't it? Somebody that can, yeah, be comfortable with things coming from different angles, different things.
Yeah,
Uh,
because you never know. Somebody can ring up and say, "Oh, this is happening to me. Can I come and see somebody?" And you say, "Absolutely." And then you send them out some paperwork, and that comes back. The issue is the same, and then they turn up in the room and they're like, "Oh, I know I said I wanted to talk about this, but this thing's happened over the weekend.
right.
I need to talk about this," and
Yes.
and that's okay.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I guess speaking from a coaching perspective, that quite often happens with business. In
Yes.
business is we were going to talk about the marketing plan for the next 12 months, but a
Yeah.
client's just said or a client or an employee's handed a notice in. We need to deal with that situation right now, because that's not helping. And I believe you're familiar with a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
I don't think there's any one person. I think I've been really privileged to work with and alongside like some really fabulous people over the years. I think in social care there were some real leaders in those teams,
Brilliant.
real leaders. And then coming through into my training, I trained at York St John University, and the counselling team there, they all brought different things, and I think and they would all have competing views about things. So you'd have a lecture with one and go, actually, I really believe in that, and then the next time it would be somebody saying completely different, and you'd have to make up your own mind.
Yep.
And I really really valued that. And then coming through into into growing my own business, um, like I say, I have a really good team around me, but I also have a really good community around me. The
Yep.
York business community is so supportive. So if you ever, need advice or guidance, there's always somebody you can tap into.
Brilliant. Wonderful. And do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about life or business or success that you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
I think the one that keeps coming back. Well, there are two actually. There's the one that keeps coming back is because of what we do with our clients.
Yep.
That's one part of it, but also as a placement provider and a supervisor, we support trainees coming through to complete their
Great.
counselling training, and then help them go off and set their business up. So when you're training to be a counselor, no one tells you about the business side of things. So we try and do both for,
Yep.
for people with us. So one of the quotes is, "We rise by lifting others," because I genuinely believe we do.
Love it. Oh, that's yeah. What a great quote.
And
Did you,
the second one would be, people may not remember what you said or what you did, and especially with the counselling, it's how they made you feel.
love it? Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just that I feel so much lighter,
Yeah.
and yeah, leaving the thing going. Wonderful. And what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Sinead?
I have learned that I am more resilient than I ever thought I could be doing this.
Brilliant.
And if you had told me 20 years ago that I'd be sitting here about to open my my fourth office in my third site, I would be, no, that's not me. But that is literally what's going to happen. And being recognized, um, if you had told me that the mayor of York and North Yorkshire would know my name, I would like, it's like, wow,
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's that. It's kind of actually backing myself.
Yes. Yeah. I'd say resilience is probably one of
Yeah.
the. I think the two that are most common are resilience and imposter syndrome, which is uh, which is interesting. But I mean, one thing I always ask people about resilience, or how good are you at celebrating your successes?
Um, I think I think on some level you have to blow your trumpet to let people know you're there.
Yep.
And I think within our team, we definitely do take the time out to celebrate that, to celebrate the successes. But when we have milestones with the partners we work with, the community collaborations, we
Yes.
really, like we do celebrate, and they are the ones who will stand on the chairs and shout from the rooftops as well. So
Brilliant.
we do celebrate, where we've come from and where we're going and what we're doing in the
Yes.
here and now.
Brilliant. Yeah, I always ask the question because I personally believe that celebration builds resilience because
Yeah,
it helps us when we're in those difficult times of saying, you know, can I really do this? If we've or why am I doing this? We've got all those reasons because we did this and because we did
yeah.
and I think it's quite important. And what I find is business people aren't very good at celebrating, so they're always looking at what's yet to be done rather than what they have done. So it's quite important, and we when we ever get business people together is spend a small time celebrating together and just sharing wins, and they can be anything from relatively minor things to massive things, but just the act of celebration I think is so key.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and I find it really important to celebrate the team around you and the people
Yes.
around you.
100%. And it's so important for them too. It's as a team as individuals. I think both
Mm,
are really, really valuable.
mm.
And it's interesting, especially given you're looking at opening your fourth, as you say, your fourth office. We have a phrase in Action Coach of what we consider to be a true business. A true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners and leaders. And I'm just keen to know how you feel about that as a definition.
I feel we are almost there with that. Because like when you start a counseling practice, it is just you, and then
Yes,
you're supporting others as they come through.
yes,
But now I have like a really solid associate team, and I've got three really solid associates. So last year I had to take some time off work for a medical procedure I had done, and normally when I go away, I say to them, just don't call me unless the house is burning down,
yeah,
because they just manage it. But
yeah,
last year I said, I don't care if the house burns down, leave me alone for 2 months.
right,
And they did. And I came back
brilliant,
and nobody died. Everybody was
well done,
everything was still working.
really well done.
So that was a real milestone for me to kind of go, actually, I don't need to hold on to this as tightly as I have
Yeah,
been doing.
it's we understand that feeling of letting
Mm,
go and stuff, and I think what we have to replace with control is information.
yeah,
If we know,
absolutely.
we don't have to touch it if we know it's being done, and
Yeah.
it's again at that level. Interestingly enough, I remember when I trained as an action coach 20 odd years ago, and one of my co-trainees was he'd been coached. He was actually a butcher who had been coached and decided and grew his business and decided he wanted to become a coach. And one of the things he was coached to, I remember him telling me, was he was coached to get a second branch because that would mean he couldn't be in two places at the same time. Therefore,
Yeah.
he had to start to build that principle and probably more importantly, the mindset of it's not about me. It's not just
Yeah.
about how hard I work. It's how well I lead a team. Um,
Absolutely.
is really clear. Wonderful. So obviously some real real successes there, and so looking forward then, Sinead, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think the future does look like growth, but I think after this, when this fourth office opens, this across this third site, I think I'll just spend maybe about 6 months consolidating all of that.
Brilliant.
And then I do have like some of the team want to go further into North Yorkshire. So whether it's like whether we look at a franchising model, which is something I haven't even looked at yet, but I think because of the team, growth is there. And I want to grow it for them.
Yep.
To be, because the ethos is to make counselling more and therapy more accessible for everybody. So if I've got a team that wants to help me do that, I'm going to do it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And if you started again, is there anything significant do you think you do differently?
I'd do it earlier. I would do
Interesting.
it earlier.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I've a few people have said that, and I love it. And it just shows like how much you would clearly enjoy what you do, and
Yeah.
and are fulfilling a purpose because it's like yeah, do more. Um, Brilliant. Well, final question: what would be the best advice you'd give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
It will all work out okay in the end. Everything will be okay.
Brilliant. I love it. There's I like watching films. There's that quote which is very similar to that from, and I think it is the first. Is it the best exotic marigold hotel? I don't know if you're familiar with the
Okay.
film. And he goes, "It'll all be right in the end, and
Yeah,
if it's not all right, it's not the end."
exactly.
And
Perfect.
I just love that because it's just like, yeah, it will be fine. So therefore, and I think that feeds in that idea of, and I think it was Winston Churchill said this was, if you find yourself going through hell, just keep going. And it is that
Yeah,
point of it's the other side of wherever wherever challenges we face.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Sinead, it's been fascinating to talk to you today, and really applaud what you're achieving, but also what you do, because I think
Thank you.
counselling. I've experienced counselling myself, and it's such an important thing for people to be able to talk to somebody that, as you say, it cares but isn't connected, and I think that's quite
Mm.
an important thing to do. So, thank you so much for your time, and it'd be great to swing by in another 6, 12 months and just see how things are going with the next office, and whether you are choosing to take a break or just keep going, which will be an interesting conversation, I think. But for anyone watching that would like to get in touch with you or Serendipity Counselling, what would be the best way of doing that?
If you can find us through our website, so there's the email and the phone number on there, or you can send us a message.
Brilliant. Well, look, as I say, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for this afternoon.
Thank you.